here's a hard lesson that every single entrepreneur out there has to learn if they want to be successful in their business, or if they feel lonely or feel like their significant other don't get them. Because I was there, and I trust me, I understand how that feels. It can be very, very, very frustrating. That's why I want to share with you 3 things that you want to understand right up front, and you might be able to turn that thing around. In fact, I know you can turn it around if you follow these 3 things, or if you understand these 3 things and apply them to you, especially if you're starting from scratch. Now, one of the first ones is your girl or your guy don't understand what it is you're trying to do. So this one is a very common one, because oftentimes, more times than not, we go from being employees to overnight entrepreneurs, and then we're trying to explain to them, hey, I got this internet business that I'm doing and it's going to take off, or I'm trying to learn how to do copywriting or affiliate marketing or e-commerce or something like that. And the person is like, I've never heard you talk about entrepreneurship. So where's all this coming from? And more times than not, that's what it is. But with this one, this is honestly a bare bones, simple one to get around. With me, what I do is I'll let my girl know, hey, look, I know you don't understand what I'm saying and I'm talking over your head. But I like to hear myself talk. And oftentimes just the act of listening helps me out more than you know. So usually with something like that, that's an easy approach to it. Just let them know that, hey, you don't have to understand. I just want somebody to bounce ideas off of, and more times than not, you're the perfect customer because you don't know anything about the market or the industry. So you will be able to see things that I don't see because I am so deeply rooted inside the industry and I am slightly above it. So by them being a new person who don't understand it and it's foreign to them, is really a good thing to talk to them, because they can show you what you're missing when you're too technical, especially for me, or when you're maybe too basic all the way down here. They can show you how to find that middle range where you're stimulating them intellectually and it's not too far over their head. So that one right there is really easy. So if they don't understand where you're coming from, it's as simple as saying, you don't have to understand it. I don't expect you to understand it. I just want to bounce some ideas off of you, and you just tell me what you think from you being this individual. And I usually give out a scenario like, I want you to pretend like, you're just coming online and you want to learn how to make money leveraging affiliate marketing, and you want to create your own website. Like, I would set the stage for them. I wouldn't just go into it telling them that, hey, this is what's going on, and you just, okay, this is what I'm doing, and blah, 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 blah. Now, they don't understand it. So you want to set the stage for them so that way they can have some perspective around what it is you're talking about. But more importantly, they can give some good feedback based on being a newbie or being this their first day. That way you take the feeling of, hey, you making them feel maybe a little bit less than because you're talking over their head and things like that. So that's number one. That's one of the easiest ones to get around. Honestly, I would go try that right now as soon as you finish this video if that's where you've been getting stuck at. As an entrepreneur, we have to start thinking outside the box, especially if we want to be successful when we're in a relationship, because it's very, very difficult to be an entrepreneur and be in a relationship at the same time. How's it going? Digital DIY Geek here, and welcome back to Mindset Monday, where we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship and the hard side of being an entrepreneur. So let's talk about it. Okay, so the next one, honestly, I kind of wanted to put this at number 1, but it's a toss up between number 1 and number 2. Now, as a guy, this is one of those ones that I know was brutally frustrating for me, which is your girl don't support what you're doing. Now, it's different because honestly, I don't know for the ladies. Like, I don't know if the ladies go home, tell their guys what they're doing, and then they don't support them or look down on them. I'm not sure. However, what I do know is with the guys, typically the woman, well, I should step back and say this. When it comes to support, I'm talking about support meaning that not financial support, but just support and, okay, I'm going to support you in this. I don't know what you're doing. I don't quite understand it, but I'm going to support you in what you're doing because this is what you want to do. For me, when I first got into this about in 2000, I want to say 2008, because I had my motorcycle accident in 2007. By 2008, I was in some type of business, dabbling a little bit. And between 2008 2008 to until 2020, I tried multiple of businesses. I've taken a multiple of classes, and I've done a lot of work. So when you look at that span from 2008 to 2020, that's like what, 12 years, give or take a few months. So when you look at that and you say, okay, well, I don't have the support or something like that. I remember when I would call my girl and tell her, hey, look, I'm at this meeting, or I'm here, or I'm there. And it would be that it would be passive aggressive. It was never ever directly aggressive, but it was passive aggressive. And for us dudes, that's typically what we deal with. Meaning we might, say we can't go to dinner night, or we might, be in our heads while we're at dinner or something like that, which you should never do that. When you're with your girl or with your guy, you should absolutely tune in, be present in the moment. However, at this time, I wanted success so badly that my every waking moment was about being up late nights, putting in the work, trying to figure out this entrepreneurial stuff online. And what I want you to understand is when they don't support you, it's not so much that, they for me, what I found out, let me say this, is when you come to somebody and you tell them, hey, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, and they look at your past, and in your past, all they can see is everything you've done up to that point, and none of it says, okay, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. That's when you typically have people, say, well, I don't believe it, or they might snatch your dream, or they might say you stopped and started, or maybe you've been at it for a long time and you have nothing to show for it. That's typically where the lack of support come in at. Now, the first year, because I was talking to a guy at Funnel Hacking Live 2021, and he was basically saying that his biggest problem is he would love to go harder in his business, but his girl don't support it. And for dudes, if our girls don't support what we're doing, or if what we're doing gonna start an argument later on in the day, we tend to just say, forget it, push it off to the side, and do whatever our girl wanted us to do just to keep the drama down. And when you live with a person, I can only imagine it's even worse than that, because now you living with this person and you gotta, come back and deal with them being upset for however long period of time it is, or whatever the case may be. So I could see how that would be even more difficult when you're not living with the individual, and it's like that. It's a little bit easier because y'all not living together, but it's still the same concept. When we have a significant other and that person don't support us, it's a major shot to our ego. At least for me it was. And I had to realize that, they're looking at my track record of all I've been in leadership all this time. They've never heard me say nothing about entrepreneurship. Magically, I fall off my motorcycle. Now I'm talking about detaching my time from my income and making sure I'm never in this situation again. So I can see where it would be some skepticism. And I can see where, I feel like if I walked in and picked up the phone and called my girl right now and told her, hey, look, I want to be an astronaut, I feel like she should say, okay, cool. What's the first step? And I feel like anything less than her saying that, then me being me, I'm gonna get upset, because it's like, I don't care what she come in and tell me, or what she pick up the phone and call me and tell me, I'm going to support it. Whether I believe she can do it or not is irrelevant. I'm going to support it from the standpoint of I'm going to be her number one fan. And for us guys, we look at it the same way. When we don't get that, it becomes this toss up of we got to choose between our significant other and we got to choose between our job, or our business rather. So it's like, okay, how do we balance that? Now we playing this balancing act, and we feel like we're weighted down, or we're climbing an uphill battle, because we can go harder in the business, but if we go harder in the business, it's jeopardizing our relationship. Now if we go harder in a relationship, we feel envious or frustrated because we know we're not playing to our full potential in the business. This is like one of those key things that a lot of guys deal with. Now, honestly, for women, I don't know if it's the same. I would imagine to a certain degree it is. I would imagine they have their own fight too. So what we have to do in this situation is we want to make our first dollar as quick as possible. Because here's what I've learned. If you tell a person that I want to be an entrepreneur, this, that, and the other, and you've never had nothing to do with it, you got to build your belief system as quick as possible. Because one of the hardest things to do is to hold fast, steadfast, and stay true to what you believe when everybody around you is telling you you're crazy. So when you don't have that support system, you want to knuckle down, buckle down, and make your first dollar as quick as possible. Notice I said your first dollar, because here's the deal. You don't have to go out and make, your first $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $20,000, $20,000. I mean, that would be great if you did. But the reality is you just need a check to show that, look, what I'm doing is not crazy. It's money to be made here. And with that, more times than not, your significant other get on board. Now, on the flip side of that coin, when your significant other don't get on board is when you've been at it for, 6, 7 years and you don't really have anything to show for it. That's different from she don't support me. That's more so she's now jaded. She no longer believes, or he no longer believes that I can do it. Which brings me to number 3, which in my personal opinion is probably the biggest one, because more times than not, our significant other, especially if we a guy, wants us to talk to him. Women love for us to talk to them and have that interaction with us. They want to know everything we're doing. That's how come they learn all our friends' names and everyone we talk to at work, and we know none of theirs. So they won't have so much of a problem with that one. And then the second one, as long as we show them the results that we can get and what we're doing, and we find that happy medium balance where, yes, I want to make sure she's number one, and I also want to make sure I'm giving 100% to the business. When we find that happy balance that we're comfortable with, or that we both can agree on, number 2 is pretty easy to get around as well. Now, number 3, it brings me to number 1, which I call it number 3 because it's third one, but it's really, I would argue, is the biggest problem that entrepreneurs are facing right now. Now, when you're brand new, you don't have to worry about this. If you follow number 1 and number 2, you won't get to number 3. But today, a lot of entrepreneurs find themselves with jaded significant others. Because if you ever seen the movie Acrimonious, that explains entrepreneurs to a T, where in the movie, she spent 10 years or so, supporting this guy, doing everything for this guy, and all he did was sell her on hopes and dreams. And she got to the point where she was tired and couldn't take no more. And she lost that, that glee in her eyes. She lost that. So as a result, when he finally did make it and come back and give her money, she didn't know how to take it. It was like, she didn't stick it out, basically. And a lot of entrepreneurs find themselves in that spot. Now, the good news is, if you find yourself in this spot where you've been doing something, so for example, I told you I started in 2008 to 2020. Between 2008 to 2020, that's 12 years. In that time, I've spent bukus of money, literally bukus of money. We're talking about spending money on credit cards to get tech setups, putting myself in a ton of debt. We're talking about taking every single check that I got, spending it on information products, trying to get it done. We're talking about super late night at the computer, not going to bed. Now, for me, it wasn't that big of a deal because I was by myself and, wasn't nobody in the bed waiting on me to go to bed. So from late nights was okay, but it affected me the next morning when, my girl would call, or I'm too sleepy, or I'm zoned out because I stayed up half the night, or I'm wrecking my brain trying to figure out a problem or something like that. Those type of things over time makes our significant other jaded, meaning that it becomes a point where they just want us to go back to our old life, get a steady job, and just move forward with them and move on to our next dream, which is, whatever that dream may be, getting a house, getting married, doing whatever the next thing is for the relationship. The problem with this is this, and I heard a podcast where a guy was going through a similar thing, which his wife had stuck it out for, I want to say 7 years, and he had a startup, and she wanted to move out and get a house, and he didn't want to get a house. He wanted to stay where they were. He wanted to focus on the business a little bit longer because he was a consultant and his business was slowly taking off. He was making some money, but it was nowhere near the type of money he would be making if he went back to his field as a computer programmer. So she, in the audio you listening to it, and you can tell she had become extremely jaded to the point where she didn't believe anything he said. She thought he was a joke, and she really was, to me, it sounded like she was on the verge of just throwing her hands in the air because she wanted more space for their kids. So with this type of mentality, with this type of attitude, it's only one thing you can do in a scenario like this, and that's follow through on everything you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to get up and create content every day for your business, you have to get up and create content for your business every day. If you say you're going to stay up all night and you're not going to sleep until whatever that project is done so you can have it up on time, then that's what you have to do. In my case, if you notice, this shirt is the same shirt from the last video if you watched that one. And that's because in my case, I don't have the luxury of sitting down creating these videos one at a time because of my work schedule, me going to school, and all this other stuff. So I have to batch my content. But if I walked around telling my girl that I'm gonna do this, and this, and I wasn't doing it, she would become jaded, especially from 2008. Now, don't get me wrong, I had a girl that was jaded from 2008 in that time frame because she was there from day one, and it was like, well, how much longer? But the reality is, it's kind of like in that movie Acrimonious. We don't determine our success, how fast we're successful. If we determined how fast we were successful, everybody would be successful the next day. But the reality is everybody's journey is different. And we don't know if it's going to take us a year, 6 months, or 20 years, or if we're going to even do it. We have, as entrepreneurs, we literally have hope, blind faith, and grit that's pushing us forward. Like if you want to sum it up to 3 things, that's what we have. And if you have an entrepreneur who don't follow through with what they say they're going to do, then that just makes it even harder on that entrepreneur. So if you tell your girl you're going to create a piece of content every single day, then you got to go create that piece of content every single day because she's watching you. And if you don't create that piece of content every day, then she like, hey, look, you say you want to be an entrepreneur, but you ain't doing this. You say you want this, but you're not doing what it takes to get there. You say you want to do this, but you was just laid in the bed for the last 6-7 hours or binge watching Netflix. So I don't see it. So what you have to understand about when your significant other become jaded is sometimes it's warranted. Sometimes it's warranted. So what you have to do if you're in that scenario is you have to recommit, meaning that, because let's face it, being an entrepreneur is not something we're willing to give up. And trust me, I know, because I've thought about Quinn being an entrepreneur 1,001 times at this point. From 2008 till 2022, I've at least thought about Quinn 1,000 times every single week. Like, no joke, no exaggeration. Being an entrepreneur is very hard, it's very stressful, it's very lonely, and it's very frustrating when you look around and you have nobody you can bounce ideas off of other than your significant other who you know don't get it. But if you set up that pre-frame the way I told you to, it'll be night and day with the ounces they kick back out at you, because you're putting them in that state of your ideal customer and you get to hear it from their perspective. So really do that. The other thing is, when they're jaded, you want to make sure that when you look out at them being jaded, you don't want to get mad. Because for me personally, like when I had a jaded girlfriend, I flat out told her, I get it, you're jaded. I've been doing this for a while now, don't have much to show from it. Yeah, I get affiliate commission checks, but it's nowhere at the level where I feel like I should be. So that frustrates me too. But I also said it's okay because I got enough confidence in myself for the both of us. And sometimes that's just the way you got to be, because you can't get hung up on what someone else over here think about you. Because if you do, you're going to have a very hard time with all of it. To be completely honest with you, you're just going to have a hard time, and you don't want to get frustrated and then go try to do some work. And you don't want to spend your energy arguing about the business, because that's going to steal your energy and you're not going to want to do no work because you're going to be mad. So this is a hard lesson that all entrepreneurs have to learn up front. Now, if you have a better strategy or a better way of handling these, or if I've missed something, leave me a comment below and let me know. I answer every single comment, so you don't have to worry about your comment not getting answered. So with that being said, I'm the Digital DIY Geek. I'll catch you in the very next video. Till next time. Later.